So Mandalorians, wow, I don't really know what to say or how to feel. Well, I do know how to feel after the end of this episode, because that ending though, and to be honest, a whole bunch happened this episode. And to those saying, oh, there's been too much filler in the Mandalorian, this, that, and the other, well, I hope you're happy with this episode. I've personally enjoyed all of the other episodes, but this episode gave us probably the most story and plot we've had since episode 1 and 2, if you're on about the main plot, because wow, seriously, so much happened. Like, we finally got to meet Giancarlo Esposito's character. We got Baby Yoda using the Force, or potentially the dark side of the Force, which was, there's lots of hilarious moments there. We got Death Troopers back. We got answers about Mandalore, or should I say the Great Purge, with the teasing we've had before, the Beskar being taken from the Mandalorians. And I'm probably forgetting a billion other things off the top of my head, but this episode was really good. I feel like it's kind of like a part 1 of a part 2 kind of really big mashup and heavy dive, and concentrating into that final, or should I say finale. But before we get into all the details, guys, of course, go ahead and like this video if you are enjoying the Mandalorian reviews. By the way, I am watching The Rise of Skywalker tonight, sometime probably by the time maybe you're watching this video, so my review for that should be up tomorrow, Thursday, and then I will, of course, as I said, have my Mandalorian finale review out Friday, so make sure you're subscribed for that. But let's get into all of the details of this episode, titled The Reckoning. And my god, that the reckoning did take place. So this episode started off with Greef Karga popping up on a holo transmission, saying that he's trying to enlist the Mandalorians' help, because ever since their run-in with the guild and everything like that, things have just been so much worse in that town, because the warlord has brought a lot more ex-Empire and just Imperials to just essentially put their rule over the city. And by the end of the episode, wow, we saw a lot of them. But essentially, the livelihood of the guild has dwindled, because, if the Empire, it's weird, they're not around, but this is just the personification of how much, despite the Empire being defeated, it is still littered absolutely everywhere. And that's something I just really enjoyed seeing in this episode. I know I'm kind of skipping ahead in a minute, but that's just how excited I am to talk about that. The Empire defeated, but the sheer amount of them that are still there, that was a treat to see. So obviously Greef can't do this himself. He needs Mando's help to take him out, and as a result, he will be his name will be cleared with the guild. And so it's just in everyone's best interest to make sure this is resolved. So this is where the setup from all of the previous episodes comes in very handy, like how they spent their time meeting Cara Dune, or whether it's just the Ognok, Queel. I feel like saying Kawaii, but no, it's Queel. Like, as I said, like, I'm not going to go on about filler again, because I've gone over that in plenty of my reviews so far. I kind of disagree with it, but in the sense of that, I've really enjoyed this other content. But it's also, set up these characters to return, and that's where the Mandalorian has enlisted Cara Dune's help. We saw her cage fighting with a Zabrak, which was awesome to see. She was worried about people finding out her chain code, and, if that happened, she would spend her life in a prison cell. But, when she heard that it's to do with an Imperial, she was in. So yeah, I was really glad having her on board again this episode. I thought we would be seeing her again, but I knew she's coming back in season 2, apparently. But yeah, delighted to see her back in this episode, because there were plenty of awesome moments with Cara. But that's when we had Baby Yoda flying the Razor Crest. Yet again, another hilarious moment. She was just like, are you sure he's going to be alright up there? Mando was like, yeah. And then that happened. I can't wait to see more moments like this from Baby Yoda. As I kind of mentioned in my last review, let me know down in the comments below if you think, despite this storyline that's going on in this episode and what will be going on in the finale, do you think that they're going to maintain him in season 2? Because I feel like the show would be successful still. Obviously, it's a great high quality show, but will it be the same without Baby Yoda? It's just interesting to consider. And while all of this was happening, that's when they headed to see Quill. I thought initially he was going to just drop the child off there so he could babysit him, but no, it turned out Quill was coming along with the Blurgs, which was awesome again. Everything from the previous episodes was just set up for all of this to happen. But also there was a bit of light touch conversation on this episode with Baby Yoda, because obviously with his Force powers coming into play quite a few times in this episode, we kind of got to learn about him a little bit more. But just as we kind of got on the brink of maybe learning something significant, I feel like they kind of robbed it away from us. Now, I don't necessarily mind that. I'm kind of definitely intrigued to learn a lot more, and I feel like we're going to get there perhaps maybe in the finale. But this all started with the Mando saying that I think that Baby Yoda, well, he said it, is strand cast, and that's when Quill said he doesn't think it was engineered, which is very interesting because that plays into the whole fan theory thing. with obviously Dr. Persha, I think his name was, if I remember correctly, having the Camino symbol, everyone thinking that maybe he is a clone, but then again, we had Creel saying that he isn't engineered, far too ugly, which is a very funny line to throw in there. They knew exactly what they were doing in that moment, but also just how he's worked on gene farms, and he reckons he would recognize if it was an engineered job, and this was truly an engineered clone, basically, or just an engineered species. It's definitely kind of adding a bit of a confusing mix there. We have Quill saying not engineered, but then they planted the seed of the Camino symbol, so it's like, hey, well, what's really going on there then with Baby Yoda? What is the origin? But things only get more interesting from this point. And I almost forgot IG-11. I love that montage of Krill completely reprogramming him. It was very newbie, very hilarious. He just serves tea now. I feel like he might indeed come into play next episode, considering what happened. But this was like a nice little element. You all should remember him from the pilot episode. Mando was very, very adamant against not using him, like multiple times. I felt like they emphasized it so much to the point where maybe it was foreshadowing something. Like he still didn't trust it despite the rewiring. But who knows? This still might come into play next episode. But yeah, very, very funny scenes. But this is where we had the Mandalorian and Cara Dune, whilst they were traveling in the Razor Crest, they were doing a little friendly arm wrestling match, and Baby Yoda thought the Mandalorian was in danger. So what did he go and decide to do? Hey, Cara Dune, I'm gonna force choke you until you die, if I can, and protect my stepdad, I guess. I don't know. But that was crazy. I love it, but I feel like, I don't know. Do any of you feel like they're almost giving him a bit too much force powers? I almost take that back. As I said, I love it, but I'm also like, wow, like this kid is so OP. I get it, Yoda species, we do not know much about him. They're extremely force sensitive. They have long life, but like, this is pretty crazy, and this still isn't, we're only scratching the surface, because then we had that moment with Grief Karga. So yeah, force choking, you could argue it's not strictly a dark side power. At the end of the day, this is just a baby, so it probably didn't even know what it was doing through shutting off Cara Dune's airways. It was obviously just protecting its dad, if you will. But yeah, awesome moment, but also very interesting, because this is where we got another tease from Quill. He said something about after the Mudhorn, it was a bit confusing, but now after this, things become a lot more clearer, because he's heard rumors. But yet again, just as we're like, what are the rumors then? What have you heard? Obviously, it's to do with the Force, and maybe there was Luke Skywalker out there, but not many people believe that, because yet again, to reiterate all of this is a time where you may have heard stories about maybe the Darth Vader or something like that in a galaxy, but even he was not really known everywhere to the general public. But, maybe Luke Skywalker, but they're still just stories. Think about how Rey just thought they were stories. But that's the way in the future with Rey. But you get what I'm trying to say here. So that's why they wanted to emphasize it through Quill saying rumors with his time in the Empire. Maybe these mystical force powers. And yeah, that reminds me of Han Solo's line. So just as they were going to delve into that with Mandalorian learning what this force is, they cut it off. So we still don't have a lot of conversation going on there, where I feel like realistically you would talk about that, like what the hell's going on here. But obviously they're kind of teasing us, edging us along until the last minute. I hope they do give us a little bit more clarity, but I'm definitely along for the ride here. I just hope they don't drag it out for way too long. But I'm totally on board from a person who knows, quite a bit, I would say, about Star Wars, that, I do understand that this kid is just, bottom line, mega force sensitive. So that is kind of good enough for me, but I want the characters to kind of learn about the mysteries of the Force. But at the same time, it is so ambiguous, especially in this time, that still, you wouldn't, a normie, if you will, in the galaxy, not that the Mando is a normie, wouldn't really, know so much about it. It's just, yeah, hokey religions and ancient weapons ain't no match for a Mando at your side, kid. So this is where they were landed. They came out on the Blugs, awesome entrance, met up with Grief Karga. Long story short, got to the camping bit. They got attacked. I couldn't figure out what that species was. It was so darkly lit, but yeah, couldn't figure it out off the top of my head. If any of you guys know, or because I missed that, let me know what species you think it could be down in the comments below. Would love to know your thoughts. But either way, let's just jump to the cut, because we're already speaking about Baby Yoda. Grief Karga got really, really badly wounded. Like, his arm was torn up, like, it reminiscent of, like, the freaking, the scrap skin of Anakin Skywalker burnt on Mustafar. Yet Baby Yoda walks along and uses Force Heal, something we haven't really seen that much of in the Star Wars universe in live action, like proper Force Heal, to the point where I thought, okay, he would take the poison away. I thought that would be it as it happened, but nope, he went the next step, and the mangled skin went to good as new skin. So this child, no wonder the Empire won it anyway. Like, I understood it from a Force sensitive perspective and how that could be valuable. But this, I know Force Heal is a thing, but not even like we've seen scenes with the Chosen One and he couldn't pull stuff off like this. Yet this baby comes along and just, waves his hand, and like, it was awesome. I loved it. But I need answers. I want more answers now. All I know, though, is that The Mandalorian, the show itself, like Disney are really trying, like the writers are really trying to hype up or emphasize the focus of how powerful this child is. This is where Greef Karga, though, after that experience, killed and turned on his own bounty hunters from the guild because they were originally, Kara's suspicions were right. They were originally going to kill them and take the child. Typically, it's just what you would typically expect from a couple of backworld kind of people. But his mind changed. And this is where we entered the town. And wow, like it was, as I teased earlier on in this review, guys, it was so good seeing such a occupied town from the Empire. And you may be like, well, how's that new? There's like 3 films out of the Empire fully in control back in the day, the original trilogy. But I think, as I keep saying, this time in Star Wars is such an interesting time to explore. I think my second other favorite time would be post Revenge of the Sith. There's not so much done there apart from Rogue One, and then we have recently Jedi Fallen Order, some comic book stuff, but this is another really interesting time. And just seeing the Empire being defeated, this is still post Battle of Jakku, yet they have the balls to like still occupy a whole town like that with many troops. Just seeing the scout troopers there with the swoop bikes. And this is where the Mandalorian met the original client again, and he was admiring the Mandalorian's Beskar armor, the way it's been forged into not only the pauldrons now, but the torso plates, the lower armor. It was just this was a really interesting scene because a lot of people were asking about what this Great Purge was. And no, not the Great Jedi Purge, but obviously the question of what happened to the Mandalorian people, or Mandalore, or just why they can only really go, I feel like that was a bit over exaggerated, but one of the Mandalorians said only go above the surface one at a time, living down there like sewer rats or whatever rats they said. And we got a little bit more about that, and I feel like it was just what you would have expected, because obviously with the Beskar having all of the Imperial marks on it, it was taken by them. Obviously the title being the Great Purge, obviously something bad happened with the Empire and the Mandalorians, and this is where he said it is a shame that your people suffered so, just as in this situation it was all unavoidable. Like if you did the job, this didn't have to happen. And that's when he says, why did Mandalore resist our expansion? The Empire improves every system it touches. Compare Imperial rule to what is happening now. And that's the line I was referencing earlier with how like times are in such disarray now compared to when, to be fair, the Empire was ruling. It's debatable, of course, but it's a messy time. New Republic can't just sweep in and fix everything like that. But, that aside, we spoke about that enough in other videos. Essentially, the story probably is Mandalore were like, no, screw you, Empire. Despite how badass Mandalorians are, you can imagine the full fist of the Empire coming down on Mandalore. And, they probably seized all their Beskar. You had certain tribes who probably made it out, just like the tribe of the Mandalorians. But as a result, his people were absolutely cluster-effed, like to a mad degree. Their Beskar taken, and now they're in full recuperation mode. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but you guys get what I mean. Probably very self-explanatory, but we've got a lot more light now. At this moment, this is when Moff Gideon spoke on the holopad, and I was like thinking, okay, is this all we're going to see of him? Fair enough if that's the case. We're getting towards the end of the episode now. Maybe he's just going to be fully focused on in the finale. But then there was Blaster Fire, and for a second I was figuring out where it was coming from. I was like, is this Cara, like with her rifle or whatever she was carrying now? I don't think she was carrying her cannon. And the whole squad of Death Troopers were there. That was great to see. We all knew this was coming from the trailers anyway. After a while into The Mandalorian, I did suspect we wouldn't be seeing Giancarlo Esposito's Moff Gideon until the very end, because it just wasn't happening in the meantime. There's even a scene in the trailer that will happen in the finale that we haven't seen yet, obviously, where the Mandalorian seems to come out of the door straight away, shoot the Stormtrooper. You're probably seeing it on screen right now, so get excited for that. But yeah, like this was really badass because loads of stormtrooper transports started to arrive. Love the way they ran out there. They were completely outnumbered, outgunned, and I cannot wait to see how this goes down. Like this is probably going to be where a lot of a portion of the budget is going to go, because I think they've impressed us a shit ton so far with what they've done in terms of spectacle and action. But this is going to be probably the episode that takes the cake. So much was going on in this moment in between scenes. It kept panning from what was going on with the Mandalorian and Moff Gideon arriving in his TIE fighter. That was epic, and just how he rose out of the ground there. But then we had Quill really trying to race as fast as he could on his blurg. And I know the scouts on the swoop bikes would probably have nearly caught up with him, and I did feel like it was maybe going in a predictable direction. I thought it would have been very Disney or just very predictable for him to barely make it. Maybe a blurg died, but they would have made it in there. Like Baby Yoda behind the blast doors, because he said, Mandalorian said there was nothing on this planet that could breach those doors. Maybe he's completely laced it with Beskar. That would be a genius move. Who knows? But either way, I didn't expect them to actually, this is where we learned that he never made it. I thought he wasn't responding because he was obviously just focusing on getting to the Razor Crest. But that was a really sad moment where the camera and the scene opened on Quill's body, the blurg dead, and Baby Yoda just on the floor being completely snatched up in a Quidditch kind of mode by a scout trooper on the swoop. To be taken back. Now, this is obviously going to be why the Mandalorian goes absolutely ham next episode. Like, screw it, I'm going all guns blazing to get the child back, because Moff Gideon's likely going to have the child in his hands. I can't wait to see actually how this resolves. So I would love to know what you thought of Quill's death. Did you find it pleasantly surprising like I did? In a way that sounds messed up. I didn't want it to happen, but it's like, well, fair enough. You just killed probably one of the characters that made a really big impression on a lot of people. That's in the first season. That's great. Technically Quill could have carried on for another couple of seasons. Like, why not? I have spoken. He could have popped back in quite a few times. But no, they went there. And that I felt that when Mando was worrying and fearing, obviously for the child's life, but for also Quill's, because he knew with the amount of troops outside and the fact he's on the freaking blurg that he probably wasn't going to make it. And I'm just happy that they decided to do something impactful. But yeah, absolutely fantastic episode. I know this video has been going on a bit longer than usual, but there was so much that happened, and I felt like there's so much I could just blurb out about. It was definitely one of the best episodes. And also, how is this all gonna end? Do the Mandalorians get involved? Would that be too predictable again? Just like how they helped Mando out with the battle with the Guild, would really all of them just get involved again? Will it be the Guild and the Mandalorians versus the Death Troopers and the Stormtroopers? That would be an awesome battle, but then again, I argue that it's a bit too predictable. It's a bit of a rehash from episode 3. So as always, guys, I would love to see your discussion down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you think's gonna happen. I hope you enjoyed this review. I know it's a bit more blabbery. Hope you don't mind it. Like it if you did enjoy it, guys. Subscribe if you're brand new and you want to stay tuned to Star Wars videos. As I said, I will have a Rise of Skywalker video review out tomorrow. If you want to talk about Star Wars or The Mandalorian with me personally, you can join my Discord server. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and may the Force be with you always. Goodbye.